good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where in the world you're watching from. My name is Brenda Meller, and you're joining us live right now for our series, which I like to call Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And I bring on a wide variety of different individuals to share knowledge with you, whether you are a coach, consultant, speaker, and or author. And for authors, this show is for you today. And I've got with me a very special guest, Pooja Arshanapally, and Pooja is joining us to talk about how authors can repurpose their book's content into different mediums. Pooja, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm delighted to have you. And Pooja, you and I know each other from Innovation Women. At first, I want to mention to our audience, if you're watching this live, don't be shy. Drop a comment below. Let us know where you're watching from. Or if you are an author, let us know. If you are an author, what's the name of your book? Or if you're aspiring to be an author, tell us you're hoping to publish a book someday. Don't be shy. It's your opportunity to introduce yourself and get some visibility for yourself. While we're waiting for those comments to come in, Pooja, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business? What do you do? Who do you help? And what do you help them with?
Yeah, so I know that you already started with my name or how I went about my tagline. But I'll definitely re-explain what that means. So when I started in social media, that was when I had my own business. I started in social media and I started working with authors. And I realized that there's so many other ways to market a book, and it really relies on the author to do the marketing themselves and the ongoing expenses of that. So I just was like, there should be an easier way to do this. And one way was to take the content of their book and take the main ideas, submissions of that book and put it into other pieces of their marketing. And I know that especially for nonfiction authors, it's a book is one part of what they do, and then they have multiple different types of services that they also offer. So why not integrate those missions and concepts in different parts of their marketing?
I love it. And that's a really good point, because if we're an author and we're a nonfiction author, it's probably the book is probably not the only thing that we're doing. We're probably sharing our knowledge and expertise in other ways in different platforms. So you can see why today's topic, I'm super excited about this, because I think there's so many applications from a marketing perspective. So I'm going to encourage our audience, just like Jackie's doing right now, go ahead and drop in a comment, introduce yourself, and let us know if you are Team Live or Team Replay, if you're watching us live or in the replay. And we're going to go ahead and get our conversation started. So Pooja, there's people that are watching today that are authors that are thinking about, gosh, there may be other things I should be doing with my book other than just publishing a book. So what advice do you have about repurposing our book's content into different mediums?
So if someone was just starting out from scratch, I would first look at what are the things that you're currently doing to market your business or your book, and figure out what would be the best use of my time. So usually I go with if I was planning on repurposing a book, I usually go with what is the biggest platform that I use that is bringing me the best return on investment, and I would just start from there and then just try to trickle in other ideas in other aspects, because you kind of want to be able to be efficient with your time. So just start with the one that is doing the best for you and then work your way from there.
So you're saying, like, if you're super active on Instagram, for example, and that's your channel, that's where you're most comfortable with, start there and then maybe extend out, or should we put all of our eggs in the Instagram basket? What do you think?
I would say I guess it just depends on what your goals are. So for example, let's say your interest is your main platform is your podcast. It's more of
Mhm.
you can go more in depth of different ideas on it and discuss it. And similar to Instagram, if Instagram is your main platform, you can focus on one topic, one part or maybe one chapter of the book, and just
Mhm.
create bite-sized information based on that one chapter. Or let's say you didn't have enough detail to go more in depth within that chapter, you can then just then create more different types of material that align with the same mission and same type of things with that chapter. If that makes
I love,
sense.
I love it. So you just gave us two great ideas there, and I want to make sure our audience heard it. One is take the content that you already have as a part of your book, as a part of the chapter, and sprinkle that out into some social media posts. The other is from that, the context of that, maybe there are some items you didn't cover in the book, and you could offer additional knowledge, additional tips or areas of expertise in an extension. So you could go further than the book has. So we have, repurposing what you already have, but also extending the content. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Great. And we're talking today about repurposing your book's content into different mediums. When I think about mediums, I'm thinking about the format itself. So static graphic, animated, slider, GIF, video. What are your thoughts on trying different types of mediums as well as different social networks, and any advice for us there?
So when it comes to like social media or like different types of like posts, I would first focus on who your target audience is and where they're located. I think that could be applicable to any type of marketing where you want to focus on where your audience is at before you even start. So you feel like you have an idea of what type of post that you should be creating. So for example, like let's say you're a public speaker and you get most of your audience through video. So maybe YouTube would be a better platform for you to use. And then when it comes to the type of format, I would say like start with your best educated guess. So like who your target audience, and then I would just experiment. Like I would, yeah. So like for example, I know Instagram, they have like multiple posts or like carousel posts. They have video, they have lives, and it can be confusing because there's so many different options that you can use. But I would just start with the main platform. So like, let's say your target audience likes videos, just start with videos first. And then from those videos, what are pieces like bite-sized information that you can take? Is there any quotes that someone has said that you liked that you can create into a regular post? Was there something that drew inspiration that one person said that you can dive deeper into and like create like a carousel post, like explaining that specific concept or tip?
I love it. And part of I want to share with my audience, pulling back the curtain a bit on what I do with this series. When Pooja and we first met through Innovation Women, which is like a speaking membership organization for women who are looking for more speaking engagements. And we chatted. We did like a discovery call. We kind of chatted. And I'm like, ooh, this is a really interesting topic because I do have a book. It's I don't know if you can see it in the background. Let me make it a little bit wider here. I always like stage it in the background, as when I'm doing these video shows. It's called Social Media Pie. And so selfishly, when I booked Pooja, I was like, what else can I do with my book to be sharing some of that knowledge and content on social media? And you just gave me an idea when you said pulling in testimonials or quotes or things like that. So in my book, it's a LinkedIn strategy book, but at the beginning of every chapter, I have a famous quote from a TV show or a movie or something about pie. And at the end of every chapter, it ends with a LinkedIn connection telling me their favorite pie, and I give them like a shout out in there. And I could easily do a series of posts that are just pulling out, those movie quotes or the testimonials as well. And I like how you said like creating a series. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Are you saying like start with the testimonial and then give people the step-by-step process, or help us to understand what you're referring to there?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how your book is structured. So I was thinking like I'm trying to think of an example. So like let's say your book is on nutrition and you focus on like let's say celery. I know it's such a random
Yeah, that's
like
okay. Yeah, top of
okay,
mind, right?
let's say like one chapter is just focused on celery. So like you could that whole chapter just figure out all of the things that you would say like you could probably grab in quotes, you can grab in statistics that you could use. You could grab different like factual statements that people may not even consider about celery. So you could easily create like different bite-sized information on that. And then you could also be like, oh, there's like so many things that I wanted to say in this chapter, but I didn't have the space to write it. And what
Right.
are all of those other things, and how can I delve more into it? Because I can guarantee you there's probably so much more information that you could easily grab or like delve into more, without having to just solely rely on the chapter that you wrote
Yeah.
like that specific topic on.
Yeah, and I think that's a common thing with a lot of us who are authors. We try to cram so much in the book, and then sometimes you need to pull information out. It goes on the cutting room floor, but you're like, it's good value. I had a whole section in the celery chapter about recipes and ants on a log and cream cheese stuffed with chives and all these fun recipes, and I'm getting hungry talking about it. But like, I couldn't fit them in the book, but now I can supplement them on social media, and I can say more about celery is in chapter 3 of my book, nutrition today, or whatnot. So that's a good idea to kind of repurpose that. Is the end goal for all of this, Pooja, is it to sell more books, or is it to tie into other services and offerings, or maybe a combination? What do you think?
So I would say it's more of a combination. I think one thing is, when I talked with a lot of authors, just marketing a book in itself, it's a long-term investment. And
Mm-hmm.
the cost, either if you choose to do it yourself or you pay someone else, it's a year-long investment. It is expensive to do. So I think just solely relying on book sales to get the return on investment, may not always be the best case for every person's situation. And one way, and if specifically for nonfiction authors, if one of their ways or one of their goals is to get people into their lead gen tool or use it as a marketing tool, this is probably one of the better other ways that they can market their ideas and tools to get them into the sales funnel that they have. And
Mm-hmm.
also, like, not everyone is a reader as well. So it's kind of like we're trying to attract them into like different content that they like to consume, because everyone is different, but it's still the same message.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, the content that they like to consume and in the format that they like to consume. And we're here today talking about how authors can repurpose their book's content into different mediums. And I think some people prefer video, some people prefer reading, some people prefer something that's kind of like interactive, like a slider graphic or things like that. So is it, should you kind of test and figure out what format works best? Should you just choose the format that you prefer? Like, if I don't like video, do I have to do video? I'm going to ask the question. Like I think people might be
Yeah.
wondering.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you really don't like it, I'm sure there's plenty of other ways you can still sell your services. I know it's heavily pushed to do video for a lot of things or now, but I would say, like, try to find a happy medium. If
Hmm.
like, just I think for me it's like I didn't like video, and then I just practice it, and now I'm more comfortable with it. But I think it really just depends on, like, do you hate doing it? Do you not want to do it at all? Or is it more of like,
Hmm.
are you afraid to do it? And if you're afraid to do it, just test it out and just like test something out and just experiment with it. But like, let's say you
Hmm.
don't want to do it at all. I'm sure there's so many other ways to market yourself. There's like plenty of, and I know like blogs, even though people may not see that like blogs are like reoccurring, or they may not know, there's so many
Hmm.
other different outlets that you can use to market your book. We just need to figure out like who your audience is to be able to
Hmm.
know what the other areas as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I'm assuming people that are writing a book know who their audience is. They've kind of defined that. Do you have any thoughts on like which platforms we should be on to help to reach our audience? Is any tricks that you've uncovered that help us to figure out which platforms? Like if we're on Instagram and that's our comfortable network, but our audience is really more heavily on LinkedIn, for example. Do you have any thoughts there on how to figure that process out?
I would say, usually what I did, or like when I helped with people with social media, is I started with the main engaged audience first, because
Okay.
that's where I focused on the most. But then I repurposed the other areas in
Mm-hmm.
other like posts as well. So I was
Mm-hmm.
getting like the three different types of posts on different areas. But I think it's more of like, when it comes to social media, you just have to test month by month and see overall. like what are the results that you're getting from like as like a long-term investment for social media. But I would say like just test out the other platforms and just create the same post or create something similar to
Good point.
the main platform that you have, and just see what are the results that you're getting from, and is it worth your time.
I love it. And I'm going to bring a little bit of my marketing. And I used to do social media management for my clients. I no longer offer that as a service. But when I used to do it, I was doing the 4 major platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And what I figured out is if you used a square image, it really worked across all 4 networks. So I'm gonna layer on what Pooja was just referring to, which is take what you've already created, and we're just going to assume Instagram is the main platform that you're using as an author. Take what you're creating on Instagram and then repurpose it on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, and maybe just replicate that. And I like what you said, try it out for a month, because you're not going to see the quick hit results just with one single post. You're going to, if you do that, you'll say, oh, it didn't work, I'm not going to do it again. But if you do it for a month and try to post at the same cadence and frequency, you'll start to see, especially if you do this across 4 networks simultaneously, you'll start to see, oh, Twitter's nothing happening at all. X, whatever they call it now. Twitter's nothing happening. I'm not going to do that anymore. Facebook, I'm getting a little bit of things bubbling up, but LinkedIn is almost like coming in as a strong second here under Instagram. And anything to add to that? What do you think about that approach?
Yeah, I think that, you for social media, you kind of have to be consistent with it and then be able to see the like track your progress. But I would say I would focus on like if you haven't been on LinkedIn or you're not currently active on a specific social media post, I wouldn't directly look at conversion or like how many people are buying the books or like clicking the links right off the bat. You kind of have to nurture your audience. I think it's similar to like, let's say you haven't been in a networking event in a while, or like you haven't talked to people in a while. You don't just automatically be like, hey, can you do this task for me, when you haven't seen them in like months. So it's the same way where you have to like build a relationship with people so they know that you're like on top of mind with them before you can like ask for something.
Yeah, that's a really good, I think there's so many parallels to networking online and networking in person. And you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't just go to a networking event and when they're going around the room doing their introductions, you wouldn't say, hey, hire me as your LinkedIn coach, and here's my business card with my QR code to get started, and my package is, $1,500, and let's get going. Like, you wouldn't, because they'd be like, who is this lady coming into our networking group, and we don't even know who she is, and we haven't seen her ever, and you're starting to sell to us. I think it's such a great parallel to what you would do in an in-person event, is very similar to what you would do online. What I'd like to do, Pooja, if it's okay with you, is we're going to change gears and we're going to bring our audience into the conversation. And I always tell my guests that there's about a 20-second delay from the time I say, hey, audience, join the conversation. And I put the ticker on screen that's running that says, comment now if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Pooja, or if you want to add any thoughts about being an author and publishing content on social media and things that have worked effectively for you. And it takes about 20 seconds for them to hear that, and then another 30 seconds to type things in. And sometimes there's a little delay for the comments that are coming in. So I'm buying some time as we're doing that. But I have seen some comments that are already coming in, and I want to pull them up on screen now. Joey Himmelfarb, thank you so much for watching us, Joey. And Joey has a great book. It's called, Don't Paint Your Kitchen. Did I get that right, Joey? Please feel free to drop your link to your book and the title in the comments. I can pull it up on your screen, but I think it's called Don't Paint Your Kitchen. And Joey is saying, stuff I choose to exclude from my first book will find a home in my second. So any thoughts on that strategy, Pooja? I'm sure you work with authors that have multiple books and multiple publications. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's great, because if you already have an audience, I'm sure that they're looking for more information, or they would want to delve into that like type of information in the second book.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Joey, for watching us. I'm waiting for your book title. I'm going to pull it up on screen if I see it on here. We got another question from Jackie Robbie, I believe, or maybe Roby. At any rate, Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. Jackie is asking, what about marketing prior to the book launch? I've seen that you should start promoting a year before you even publish. Pooja, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to before even marketing the book, I've talked with a lot of like people who are book coaches and book marketing. They would say I would assume it's like 6 to a year before the
Mm-hmm.
book is um, even launched. So I think that's a lot of those months are more of like nurturing your audience and being sure that you've built enough like an engagement, so when it comes to the launch, you're on top of mind with people, and people know that you're launching a book and they're ready to buy. And so
Mm-hmm.
it just adds more like tension, or adds more like growth
Yeah.
for people to look at your book and be able to drive sales to your book.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Your focus is really more on repurposing after the book is published. But I know you're so knowledgeable. Like, I'm sure she's got some thoughts on this, but um, we've actually got a lot of things in common in that, we both serve and help authors. And I've actually created, Jackie, a book marketing on LinkedIn checklist. And I do talk about my own journey to writing a book. And I would echo what Pooja was saying, which is you should be marketing it 6 months to a year in advance of publishing the book, because you create some momentum, you create some interest in the people that are in your community. It becomes their book too. Like I remember showing different versions of my cover for the book, and I said, vote on the design. I gave people 4 options. And when I published it, they said, you chose my design. Like they felt like they had some ownership in it. So it's creating some great interest and momentum that goes along with that. I'm going to drop my book marketing checklist below for those of you who are authors, just because it came up in conversation, like marketing prior to book launch. I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer. I want to drop this in, and I'll put that into the chat right now for those who might be interested in that. All right, we have another comment. This one's a little bit long. If you ever watched the TV show Home Improvement, you remember the neighbor over the fence, his name was Wilson, and they always were like looking over the fence and they can only see this much of his face. And this is one of the limitations we have with StreamYard, where if it's a longer comment, it covers a bit of those of us who are on video. But Renee is sharing, she lives on her phone, 2 published books, 1 self-published, which is an academic manual. And I think that would fall into the category of nonfiction. The second one was published through a hybrid company. That's a nonfiction as well. So it looks like there's some great thoughts on there. And I'm sorry, Renee, your comment cut off. It looks like you're actually the first time, Renee, that I've seen this happen. Usually it's like the whole comment and it gets smushed on here. But at any rate, I can see on LinkedIn, you said, I'm so grateful for this info because I need some good outlets for repurposing. And my 3rd book is in the works, which leads me to another question, Pooja. So if you've got multiple books and you're repurposing your book's content onto different social platforms in different mediums, should you focus on one book at a time, or is it okay to weave in and out of different titles in your catalog?
I guess it depends on like when they were launched, and then also depends on like how similar they are in books. If
Mm-hmm.
it's like a series, it's a lot easier, or if like the themes are very similar to each other, it's a lot easier to market. But if it's different, every subject is very different from the other, I would definitely try to separate them or like space them out so people don't get confused.
Okay, good. That's a good point. And I love if there's some similarity, because if you've written one book on a subject, there's probably a second version of the book or an iteration in a different direction for that. So something to keep in mind there. Joey did drop his book title on. I got it. I think I got it right. Don't Paint Your Kitchen: How to Sell Yourself and Get the Job You Want. And it's a very clever book title, Joey, and also a great read. I highly recommend it. I've read the book, and definitely look at that. Okay, so another question from Jackie. Can you repurpose the content pre-publishing? So I think here the question is, the book isn't published yet. Can you start teasing out some of the content that's going to be in the book before it gets published? What are your thoughts, Pooja?
Yes, I would. Yeah, because like, okay, I know this is not nonfiction, but I would say it could be applicable. There was one poet, I don't remember her name, but her primary platform was Instagram, and before the books were published, she like literally posted on like sticky notes, just like different parts of her poetry, and just like every single day she would just consistently post, and
Mm-hmm.
that drove her traffic, because like you would think that if she posted everything on her poetry book, that why would anyone want to buy the book? because she already
Yeah.
posted everything. But it
Sure.
actually made people want to buy it more, and it drove people more into it. And like for me, like I love seeing it on my feed all the time, and it made me want to buy the book because then I have like a whole collection instead of having to scroll through every single feed and look at all the poetry books.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it reminds me of one of my friends. Her name's Diane Darling, and I'll give her a shout out right now. And she published a book which was a collection of quotes from women. Because a lot of times when you're in a presentation, you'll see quotes from men. And I have nothing against the Stephen Coveys and all the, Steve Jobs of the world and everything like that. But like as a woman, if I'm sitting in the audience and all I see are quotes from famous men, I get a little irritated. Like they couldn't have thought of one quote from a woman on there, but she published a collection of quotes from women authors. And she could easily be repurposing, those quotes onto different social platforms, different mediums. And, the call to action is get the book if you want them all in one place, because yeah, the reality is maybe you have published all of those quotes out on social media, but this will help you remember people are lazy. And I don't think they really are, but it's going to help. People are lazy. They're not going to sit on your Instagram feed and go and collect all the things that you've published. They want it all in one neat, tidy package, which is your book. So I think even if you're circulating everything, it can definitely help to support those book sales on there. And Jackie, I want to pull this comment up on screen and just share with you. Jackie's so appreciative. She says, so grateful for your brilliance on there. So Jackie, hopefully you're connected with Pooja, but if not, this is a good segue to bring us into, as we start to wrap up our conversation. Pooja, are you open to connecting with individuals who are watching you here in the broadcast, whether they're watching live or in playback? And if so, do you have any instructions for people as they connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, feel free to connect with me. I'm pretty open. I'll honestly, I'll connect with anyone. Just let me send me a message that you listen to the LinkedIn Live, because I really would love to see anyone who has come to this live. Yeah, I think that's my requirements for LinkedIn.
Yeah, good. And I'm not sure if you had set up creator mode when they still had it available or not. You may have, so I'm just going to let people know if you're visiting Pooja's profile on LinkedIn. And by the way, her first name is Pooja, last name Arshanapally, and I'm spelling that out for our podcast listeners who might be looking it up later. When you visit her profile, you're going to see her banner. It says, I help authors amplify their book's impact, and there's some other stuff. So you're in the right place. If you happen to see the follow button instead of connect, I'll just let you know that you can still connect with her. Click on the more button, and then underneath that, you'll see an option that will either say connect or personalize invite inside there. And you may, in fact, have the connect button. We're already connected, Pooja, so I can't tell which version you have, but I'm letting our audience know in case they get there and they click on follow instead of connect and they don't know that there's a way to do so. But in addition to that, let's talk about if people are interested in working with you and they want to learn more about the products or the services that you offer. And I'm going to put the web address on the screen, thecontentrepurposer.com. Tell us about any resources or where we might get started if we start at the website.
Yeah, so at the very end of the website, I have a free opt-in. So if you sign up for my newsletter, I will give you a free PDF on 3 ways to repurpose your social media content or your book into social media content. So yeah, that's my free opt-in.
All right, awesome. And I'm going to drop that link into the chat here on LinkedIn too, for those of you who are watching on LinkedIn. So that way it makes it really easy to navigate, because you can't click on your screen while we're in here, but you can click into the comments. And if you don't want to do it right now because you're watching, you can always find that comment in the playback in there later. So if people are interested in working with you directly, what are the services that you provide? Is it one-to-one coaching? Is it an online program? Or tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of tailored based on each person, but I offer like either a consultation. So kind of someone who just comes to me, they have a lot of content, they have a book, and they don't really know what to do with it. So I go through the book, take out the content, and just give them a strategy on how, like what they should be doing based on the platforms that they want to target. The second option, it's a little bit more so instead of just giving the strategy, I help execute it. So if you wanted to take a book and put it into social media content, I would be able to help you with like the ongoing marketing expenses as well with that.
Okay. All right, good to know. So we'll start with going to the contentrepurposer.com where you can get on her list, and then you can learn more about her services there. And Pooja, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. You've given me some new ideas for even my book that's been out for a few years now and things that I could do. And, you know, with Jackie and some of the other comments coming in, you know, I'm starting to think about what I do with my next book and where we might want to do that from a marketing perspective on there. As we start to wrap up our conversation here today, first of all, I want to invite our audience. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't be shy. You know, feel free to share the video along with other people. On LinkedIn, as soon as the video is done playing, you'll see a share button at the bottom, and you click on share, and then share the video with your network. That counts as your LinkedIn post for the week. So if you haven't posted lately, it's a great way of thinking of content. And when you do so, tag Pooja and myself in your post. Make sure that you use the @ sign, and then we'll get notified that you've talked about us in the post. And one of the techniques I like to do is like tell people why they should watch the video. Like, this is a great video to watch if you're an author looking at marketing ideas for your book, for example. And we don't get performance reviews anymore, so I always love to see your comments on the live stream, whether it's live or in playback later. Let us know if you enjoyed the conversation. I see several of you have already done so, and I wanted to say thank Relitza. She says, not an author yet. So yay for you on getting committed on that path to writing a book. Such an exciting thing. Not an author yet, but all these tips and insights that Pooja shared were super helpful. So she says thank you. And Pooja, I want to thank you as well. This was such a great conversation filled with so many pieces of advice. Any final comments for authors on repurposing their book's content into different mediums as we wrap up here today?
I would say, like, when it comes in general, like when it comes to marketing or like marketing your book, I would say that you don't really have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to ongoing marketing expenses, because people like repetition. Even though you may think that you've said it all that you could say about a certain topic,
Yeah.
I think people want the repetition of those words.
Awesome. That's a really good point. And thank you for that reminder, Pooja. I'm going to be watching the playback as well, and this will be converted into a podcast. So we'll be able to reach some additional folks in there as well. And will I see you on Innovation Women this Friday? Are you planning on attending the call?
Yes.
Good. And by the way, Innovation Women runs events every Friday morning. It's from 8:45 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. It's called Speaker Friend Fridays. That's the event I'm referring to. And I'll be dropping the playback link to share with our fellow Innovation Women members. So with that said, Pooja, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate our time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. And for our audience, if you are watching live or playback, drop a comment before you leave. It's a great way for you to get visibility for yourself as an author, not just to let me know that you're watching, which I love, but it's also a good way to get visibility. So please feel free to drop the name of your book below, or you can drop the Amazon link like Joey did in there. Feel free to use this to help to market you. With that said, we will see you all on LinkedIn. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.